Welcome to another Unreal Engine tutorial. Today we're going to tackle merchants or shops. Basically anywhere where we can buy things off of people such as weapons, gadgets, you name it. This is the system in which we'll be able to purchase it rather than find it on the battlefield. Most of this will be UI based, so the NPC will be more of a vessel to get us into the UI. So let's start in the UI. Come down to user interface. Let's right click, user interface here, widget blueprint. We'll call this shop underscore. We're going to start with weapons because weapons is one of those things that we have to do a lot of checks, such as not buying the same weapon twice if we already have it. So let's open up weapons here, drag that tab to the top. Let's start with a border. We'll click on that border, fill the entire screen, 0 for offsets, and we'll change that color down here in brush color to 0, 0, 0 and 0.25. Next up, let's get a background blur. Attach that to the border. Make that blur strength 100 so that we can see very clearly on our UI. Out of there, let's go and get a vertical box to put everything in. Attach that to the background blur, and inside the vertical box, we're going to need quite a few things. Let's start with a rich text block so that we can use our appropriate font. And this will just be our title, so we'll call this weapons. We haven't selected a font, so it's going to come up with those A's. Let's click the drop down and find our standard text style. And now if we compile that, it'll come up as weapons. We can also center that either with the horizontal alignment or with the actual justification down here. I'm going to use the justification. A little bit of revision. Let's turn this into a title as we've predefined in our standard text style. So if we were to put the word title between two arrows facing either way like that, and then put a / between two arrows on the other side and press enter, then when that text is rendered, it will render as a title, which is just a slightly bigger font. So with that done, let's grab ourselves a horizontal box. We're going to put that horizontal box inside the vertical box. Now, because there's no space between those two, we'll go and get a spacer. I'll drag that spacer up here. I could also click the arrows here, and I will drag out Y coordinate to about 50. Just get some space between that and my first horizontal box, because the horizontal box is going to be our first menu. When it comes to weapons, I'm going to set this up so that we can not only buy weapons, but buy ammunition. And so for the assault rifle, I want that ammunition to be next to the option to buy the actual assault rifle. You'll see what I mean. Next up, let's copy that spacer over and paste it inside the horizontal box. We'll clear that out and get ourselves a button. Put that on the horizontal box. Click on the horizontal box again. Paste another spacer. Copy the button. Paste the button. And copy the spacer. Paste the spacer. So your horizontal box should look like spacer button, spacer button, spacer. If I select all of them and hit fill, you'll see that that's starting to form a style. So the first button will be to buy the assault rifle, and the second button will be to buy the ammunition. I'll come back to the styles, but for now, I just want to put some text on top of that. However, I want each button to inform the player of not only what they're buying, but how much it costs. So let's get a vertical box and drag that vertical box on top of the first button. And let's then put another rich text block inside that vertical box. We'll put two of them in there. So I'm just going to copy the first one and paste it back on top. So we have two rich text blocks there. The first rich text block, I want to say assault rifle. And I'll need to give it a text style, standard text style. When I compile, that'll come up. And the second one, I want to have the price. I'm just going to give it a generic price now. It's up to you how you want to run your in-game economy, remembering to select standard text style again. And I want both of them to also be centered. Then I'm going to grab that vertical box and copy it over and paste it on the second button so I don't have to go and realign all these text blocks here. The first one I want to say ammunition, and the second one will be a little more complicated, but we'll come back to that. Let's say that ammunition is a fraction of what it costs to actually get the assault rifle, just for now. We'll worry about the exact numbers later. And that's going to also be the way that I do the pistol, shotgun, sniper rifle, and rocket launcher later. But I just want to start really simple for now, because you'll see at the end of this set of episodes, it's going to be huge. So let's pop over to the event graph. The very first thing we'll do is get our Gamepad Support, which will also fix the coloring here. So let's go over to one of our other menus, perhaps the pause menu. And if we go over to the graph of that, we'll see that on the event tick, we have this for each loop checking if we've got focus on any of these buttons. And if we do, it then sets the background color. So let's copy everything over except the actual buttons themselves. And then we can go over to our shop weapons and paste it there. And then as we get our buttons, we will plug them in here. We also need to name our buttons. So back over to this button, let's call this button underscore AR, or we'll see if we can fit assault rifle. There is a character limit. And then this button will be button underscore AR underscore ammunition. So now if I come over here, I can see what those buttons are doing. I'm going to leave 0 there for our back button because we will need the option to click back as well. Otherwise our menu will stay open. So let's start with assault rifle on 1 and AR ammunition on 2. Now we are setting the background color here. So just so we know what we're dealing with here, let's select both of those buttons here in the menu, find our background color in style. There's our background color there. So let's set that opacity to 0. And then let the script take care of setting the actual background color. The other thing that our pause menu does is also set the focus on the very first button. So let's do that as well. Let's right click, get player controller, set user focus. And the focus will just be on the first button that we want to be focused on when we come into the menu. For me, it's going to be the assault rifle itself. We don't need pre-construct, so we can get rid of that. That is what our script needs to do at the very beginning. The other thing we're going to need to do in this menu is get our hero reference. So let's get player character cast to B underscore hero. Right click on as B hero, promote to variable reference hero. And I would say that that's a little bit more important than setting the focus. The focus can happen later, but the reference kind of needs to happen immediately in case we're using it a few hundred times as the menu loads up. So now let's talk about what happens when we actually hit the button. Click on button underscore assault rifle. Let's click on the unclicked option here. When we hit the button, we need to start with a few checks. The first check is going to be, do we have enough money? And in order to check that, we'd need our hero reference, but let's go over and check that we actually have a currency variable in our hero. It appears we do not. So let's click the plus sign on variables in our hero and type in currency. I will change this to an integer, but if you wanted to have, say, $1.50 or $1.75 and all of those decimal places, you would need to use a float. So with currency as an integer, let's go back over to the shops menu, and I can now grab that reference from my hero. Get currency. Let's drag out of that and check that we have either equal or greater than whatever our currency needs to be. We'll grab a branch. So that would be the first thing we need to do. Secondly, we need to check that the weapon we have is not already in our weapon slots. So let's drag out of a reference hero and get weapon slot 1 and get weapon slot 2. Then drag out of them, type in an exclamation mark and an equal sign for a not equal. Click the drop down, type in assault rifle, being sure to select weapon assault rifle, not ammo assault rifle. And then once that's done, copy that over to plug in weapon slot 2 and drag out of both of them to get and. So that'll be our second check, our second branch. The other thing we'll do, because there's a lot of setup work to do here, is we'll also create the events for what happens if we don't have enough money and if we already have the weapon selected. Right click, custom event. The first one will be not enough funds, and we'll right click again, get not enough funds as the function to call this event. So let's drag this event down here for later on and plug false into not enough funds. We'll also punch in the number 5,000 here as per whatever we've typed here. This isn't set in stone. We're coming back to change this later. The second event we would need, type in custom event. This event will be weapon already equipped. And the same thing we did last time. Let's drag that event down to be fulfilled later. Right click, type in weapon already equipped, and call that function to call the event. Now, so long as those two checks go through, we can then subtract this amount of currency from the hero. So let's copy the hero reference over, and we've seen this before when we did our health. Let's drag out and set currency. And we want currency to be set to, dragging out of reference hero again, currency. We'll get currency and subtract 5,000 and plug that into the currency here. And if we wanted to clean this up, we could use the hero reference twice like so that this doesn't look like a mess. So that's pretty much the beginning of this script, and I'm going to plug in these executables so you can see what's going on, but you don't have to follow me on this because this isn't necessarily the way we're going to be running this script. I just want to get you guys to understand what we're doing, and you might foresee a potential problem here, which I want to address in the next episode, and that is we would have to repeat this script for every single weapon instead of just having a script that adjusts to every weapon. So we're going to come back in the next episode and essentially change this script over. We're going to handle at a later date what to do if we have a weapon slot that's empty. We're also going to handle how the NPC will give us the right menu, all those things. So this is just the beginning. We've just run out of time at the moment. So I'll see you guys in the next episode.